showing a long documentary on the complete history of communism in North Korea.
It's the only one.
Hello, sailor.
A low-budget documentary, complete history of communism, part 5. Hope you guys have been keeping up to date.
Of course.
Previous parts, part 1. What's part 1, Jack?
What is it? Marx and...
That's right, Karl Marx and the writing of the Communist Manifesto. Part 2, Fletcher? Paris Commune. That's right, Paris Commune in 1871. Thank you, Dave. Dave, what's complete history of communism, part 3?
That'd be the Russian Revolution, I believe.
Yeah, what year did that take place?
Is that 1910?
No. 1917. Complete history of communism, part 4. Fletcher? No. It's tough.
It's China.
Tough. That's why these guys gotta stay in class and hear that they've been held back in my band. Eventually they'll be able to graduate.
China.
China, that's right. Jack's. I'm almost ready to let Jack graduate the band. But here comes complete history of communism, part 5. Communism in North Korea. Quiz to be held at the merchandise table afterwards. Korea is a mid-sized land, surrounded by China and Russia and Japan. A humble nation surrounded by 3 mighty forces. Long ago it was known as the Hermit Kingdom, isolated from the world but self-sufficient. Korea had its own language and inventions and resources. But when the rest of the world reached colonial times, Europe and Japan both wanted that colonial prize. East and West wanted Korea, who would win? It was Japan that annexed Korea in 1910. And life under the Japanese was cruel, but Korean landlords and police helped them rule. The vicious imperialists and the richest Koreans collaborated. And the first Korean communist was a woman, Alexandra Kim. She lived in Russia, but a few Koreans joined in. Maybe communism could get rid of the Japanese conquerors they all hated. The Korean Communist Party was just a few people at best, but one was Kim Song-ju, a teenage student who got arrested. When he got out, he fled and joined Mao's Red Chinese Army, fought in China, not Korea, but against the Japanese. So a legend spread back in Korea about a Korean army commander fighting in China. Kim Il-sung, meaning become the sun, became the new name of this star. And when Kim was the last commander alive in his section, and the Japanese had his troops down to just a fraction, he led his last men to safety across a river to the USSR. And so the next chapter in Kim Il-sung's life began. He left Mao's army and was retrained as a Soviet army man. Fought in Stalin's army all through World War II. And when the Japanese were crushed, it was Korea's dream come true. But like Germany after the Nazis were finished, Korea was also in question with the Japanese banished. Would it be the communist East or the capitalist West that would give them direction? So just like the new East and West Germany, a similar decision fell to cut Korea in half along the 38th parallel. The North to Stalin's Russia and the South to America's protection. And Stalin picked Kim Il-sung to be the leader in the North. Syngman Rhee was the South's leader that America put forth. And through the late 40s was a big propaganda fight. Both called the other one a puppet, and both were basically right. Well, one big problem with North Korea, to be fair, was there are very few Korean communists even there. The leaders were mostly foreigners from China and the Soviet Union. But then on the other hand, one big problem with South Korea, to be fair, was that America put back in power all those rich Koreans there. The bad ones who collaborated with Japan came right back to rule them. And another irony is that Korea did have its own communist party, but they were based down in the South where they just couldn't get things started. Meanwhile, both leaders were like pawns hoping to be kings. Both wanted permission to attack the other and conquer everything. 1950, Kim got Stalin's permission and sent the North Korean troops across the border on a conquering mission. The South Koreans fled, just like Kim hoped was gonna happen. But Kim underestimated how much America was committed. He thought the US wouldn't send troops into Korea, but they did. So it was his turn to flee back north, because it was America's excuse to see him flattened. But then it was quickly America's turn for a disastrous turnabout. We hadn't thought the giant communist Chinese army was talk of using an A-bomb, and for 3 awful years there was slaughter and no one winning. Till America and China both backed off because they were even. But with millions of Koreans dead and cities destroyed for no reason, the country was divided just the same as it was at the war's beginning. And Kim still wanted more power, but still needed Russia and China's help. The rivals he could get rid of were Korean communists themselves. He told everyone to believe in Juche, his philosophy of self-reliance, and he did improve North Korea's economy and science. So North Korea prospered for a time. But by the 70s, it started to decline. Old Kim picked his son, Kim Jong-il, to lead in case of his departure. And North Korea even started nuclear power programs, but the economy just kept slowing and slowing. And when the Soviet Union collapsed, North Korea lost its most important partner. And just like a metaphor for the growing problems of his path, old Kim grew a neck tumor that had to crop out of photographs. In fact, it grew so big it got in fistfights with his kid. Okay, that part didn't really happen, but it would have been crazy if it did. Nowadays, North Korea is a hermit kingdom once again, ruled by Kim Jong-il and his army men. Isolated from the world, but even worse than it ever had been in the past. But if North Korea can continue to get rid of its nuclear programs tomorrow, it can still be an example for the rest of the world to follow. Maybe sanctions will lift, the people will rise and make their own fate at last.